many, many years later, after I'd moved out, my parents found the hole in the wall. Like, yo, what's this? I was like, yeah, I never told you about that one. But that was kind of how my anger used to manifest, and how my frustration would reveal itself was just through, like, I would just kind of hold it in until I couldn't deal with it anymore. And then I'd throw knives out in the yard and throw bread outside and smash holes in walls. What is up, everybody? And welcome back to the Schooling Struggle Podcast. It is our belief that the only guarantee in life is that we are all going to struggle. And how we choose to embrace our struggles is what empowers us to become the best versions of ourselves. My name is Pete, coming to you from Heartland, Vermont. And with me is my friend and co-host, Mr. Todd Ellis. What's up, Todd?
What's shaking, bacon? What's happening, Peter?
As you know, I record from my basement, and it is officially the end of October as we are recording right now. And I am super excited with the fact that we have not yet turned on the heat in my house.
Oh.
And if we can make it to November 1st without turning on the heat, that's a win for me. So we're one day away. So I'm really excited.
What's the ambient temperature?
40, mid 40s outside, mid 60s inside.
Oh, so what's the cutoff? Oh, it's a date, or is it like, if it happens to go below 60, I'm turning on the heat in my house?
We have a couple supplementary ways to heat the house. We have a heat pump and a wood stove, but the actual like burning of the liquid propane, the kind of
like the furnace
that kind of sustains all day long while we're at school.
I got you.
Is the main provider of the heat, but that isn't turned on just yet. So those who have known me for a long time know that I love this type of challenge. And if I was single, I'd roll it right until Christmas.
Yeah, but you've had fires in the wood stove, I imagine.
Yeah. We just had our first flicked on the heater yet.
We had our first fire in the wood stove yesterday, the day before yesterday. It hit 26 at night, and I thought, I could heat this up overnight. And our wood stove is so efficient that my house is only like 1,400 square feet. And before you know it, like, you can manage it at like 70, and then you put an extra log in there. Before you know it, it's 77. You're opening all the windows. You're just like, oh, what did we do? Every year it goes. But yeah.
Before we get into tonight's content, you and I were talking before I hit the record button, and I was prepared to tell you that today has been a great day for me because I have not been showing a lot of discipline lately, and I've been going to bed a little bit later than I want and not doing my workout in the morning, but doing it sometime after school.
Yep.
And I went to bed last night and said, no matter how tired I am tomorrow morning, I'm going to get up and do a workout. And I did a workout before school, and my day is just set up to be so much better mentally, physically, my patience level, my level of energy, everything is just better when I do a morning workout.
Yeah.
And it was a nice reminder to me of the importance of doing that for me and the way that I function best. And I was really excited to get on here and tell you that, hey, I got up at 5:30 this morning and did a workout. Lo and behold, I find out Mr. Ellis is up to his crazy tactics once again. And give the listeners just a really brief explanation of what you have going on this month.
I'm assisting somebody with their entry of education into the CrossFit realm. Said individual, who's my brother-in-law, is a trade plumber. So he gets up early to go to work anyways, because his work is 50, 60 miles away from here. So he typically gets up at 4 a.m. to go to work. So I made the commitment and told him that I would get up early before he goes to work to help him with his fitness. And so, like, starting today, I get out of bed at 2:30 in the morning to go to the local gym and teach him how to do some CrossFit. So unknowingly, I trumped you with your jolly shining accomplishment.
I'm gonna get up at 2:28 this morning just so I can teach you.
Don't start.
It's nice to have keys to the gym, isn't it?
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Well, congrats on your 2:30 workout. And then I know Todd won't share this with the listeners, but he's a humble soul in training to set a personal record on 10Ks.
Indeed.
And he is also doing a running regimen in addition to his 2:30 workouts to try to take down his personal record, which I think is really admirable.
Thanks.
Super, super cool.
Figure you better run fast while you still can.
That's right.
Because 47 is the new 90 around my house.
So
what do we got? Yeah.
Getting into tonight's content. So we simultaneously, at least in my brain, I don't know if the listeners have been able to pick up on this, but we're running several what I call kind of different series or different themes of podcasts. We have our grounded series where we talk to people that I believe are just incredibly grounded people, and I'm excited to learn from them. We do our BYOS series, which is Bring Your Own Struggle. People come on and just kind of chat about what they have going on. We have our series with Dr. Slammin, which is fairly regular. And then a number of months ago, I started the Storytime with Mr. D series.
That's right.
I share struggles and lessons learned the hard way from past stories in my life. And recently I've had a bunch of students ask, I used to have a short temper and my fuse would blow quickly. So they're asking for some specifics. And last night I was thinking tonight we'd do a Storytime with Mr. D episode. And I texted my brother and said, hey, if I could share any story, or if you'd want to hear any story from my past, what would you like to hear? And he's like, oh, tell those 3 stories where you lost your temper. So there's just been like this theme of like Pete's temper. And I'm going to decide to share about that tonight. So
nice.
Instead of one longer story, I have 3 quick anecdotes of times when I lost my temper back in the day. And then I texted you today in the middle of the day during my lunch break, Todd, and I said, hey, do you want to share about this? And you had a really interesting response. So I kind of want to do a 2-part episode tonight. One where I just kind of romp around with a couple of stories from my past that are kind of fun to tell and fun to listen to. And we can explore that a little bit. But what I'd really like to spend the second half of the episode doing is exploring the text exchange that we had today and the thought and perspective that you shared. And I'm going to leave the listener hanging with that one. So stay tuned in for the second half of the episode. And these 3 anecdotes aren't like super crazy, but they're just ones that people around me that know me well, know me for a long time, kind of get a chuckle with. So the first time that I can really remember like losing my mind was, I think I was probably 8 or 9. And I just remember, the things that we get upset about, like in the grand scheme, normally aren't that big of a deal. And especially when you're 8 or 9, right? Yeah. And I got upset about something. I cannot remember what it was, but I do vividly remember my mother really upsetting me. And my mom wasn't the type that like yelled or got upset with us. Like to this day, I've never been grounded. I've never had like a punishment or a consequence. My mom was kind of soft in that regard. It just wasn't her style to come down hard on us. And her management or her parenting style was more of, you know that I love you. You know that I trust you. Let's keep the love and the trust. But my dad has he's come a long way, but he had a pretty short fuse when I was growing up. And of the 3 of us, my 2 brothers and I seem to inherit that gene a little more intensely than my 2 brothers. So yeah, I was known in the family as kind of being the hothead. Anyway, I'm 8 or 9, and I just remember being in the house that I grew up in Holyoke, Massachusetts, and I just remember being so angry with my mother that I remember I remember where I was standing, what I was looking at, stopping and thinking, what's the meanest thing I can do to my mother right now that would like really get her? And I went out into the front yard. I lived in suburban Massachusetts, so like, people's yards were taken care of, people's gardens were preened nicely,
well groomed. Yep.
And my mother had just planted all of her flowers for the summer. And I just went into that garden and just stomped and kicked and ripped out all of the flowers.
Wow.
And what's really interesting is a couple of years ago, I was putting in flowers all around my property with my daughter. And partway through the project, she got upset with me when I went inside. I came out and all the flowers were ripped out of the ground.
No way.
And I called my mom to tell her. And my mom was like, she's like, I knew it. It would come back and get you. So that's the first time I remember, like, I got upset and I got angry as a kid. And, but that's the first time I remember like really losing my mind and thinking like, how can I get this person in a way that is just really,
that's revenge, huh? Revengeful.
Yeah. And for the listeners that have listened to every episode of this, I touched on this very early on in our podcast journey, Todd. But so we're in our new house. I'm 13 or 14, and we moved in, and we're having this meal, and everything's going well. And we had this one steak knife that didn't cut. It wasn't sharp enough to cut the steak. And every time you getting that steak knife was like getting the short straw. Like there's 5 steak knives in the house, and one of them just, and I just, when you cut through the steak, it would just like, it would make the plate like squeak, like, like that screeching noise, like nails on a chalkboard type thing. And it would just like send a tingle through my spine. And I was so frustrated from seemingly always getting the short straw or the steak knife that I just stood up. Door was right behind the dining room table. Steak knife goes out into the yard and sit back down and continue to have my meal. And my family's like, yo, what was that all about? I'm like, that steak knife. Like, we're not keeping that in the house. We're not keeping this in the house anymore.
We're done with the steak knife.
And as you know, a number of years later, I was having dinner with my family when I was starting to get into my like neurotic fitness phase. I went through a stage where it was really important to me. Fitness was all about aesthetics at that point. It was like how I looked. You know, I was a lifeguard by the pool. I wanted to be
Oh, that's
5%
right.
body fat or whatever. And I just kind of vilified bread. My family always put a loaf of bread out, and my brother had his girlfriend over for the very first time. My brother still talks about this quite often when we get together. But I went over and I said to my mom, like, hey, I thought we weren't going to eat bread. And she's like, well, you know, Jay's girlfriend is here for the first time. You know, Noelle, it's nice to have you for our meal. Like, welcome to the family. Welcome to sit down with us and have dinner. And I just walk over. I grab the entire loaf of bread, open the back door. The loaf of bread goes out into the backyard. She was so bad. She's like,
Oh,
what is going on? She was so baffled. I'm like, no, we're not eating bread in this house. This isn't happening. Like, so
who was
you're
baffled, your
gonna
mom or
have to find
Noelle?
something else to eat. My family knew me by that point.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, Noelle. And Noelle was probably like, my brother would have to say, but 9th or 10th grade at the time.
Yeah.
And I was like the 20-year-old hothead that was an older brother.
Do you think she says
So
your bread chucking brother just blew
your
my
bread
mind?
chucking brother? But I would lose my mind. I can remember a time when I was in the treehouse and I was really upset with my older brother, and I threw a rock and it hit him in the head, and
Oh, yeah.
he chased me down, beat the crap out of me.
Oh, yeah.
But one of the other times I really lost my mind was I was at home, and it was like a weekend night, and my best friend and my girlfriend would often kind of like haggle over my time, right? Like
Uh-huh.
my best friend would want to spend time with me, which is awesome. My girlfriend would want to spend time with me, which is awesome. It wasn't great for like the three of us to hang out, or
Yeah,
like,
right.
or he'd want me to go out with the boys and she'd want me to, have a date or whatever. And I just remember this like feeling and of like anxiety and anger like building up inside me. And for me, like I can feel that when that's happening, like my face gets red and my ears get hot, and it's like builds up and I don't know what to do. Like
Yeah.
I honestly like feel like I'm going to explode. I manage that much better now, but at this point I was midway through high school, 16, 17 years old, and I had conversations with both of them on the phone, and I just didn't know what to do that night. And I was just so frustrated, and I just went downstairs and I just jumped off the stairs and I just put my entire foot like through the wall. And there was a spot, the hole in the wall, or the marking in the sheetrock was about the size of like the windshield of a car. It was just enormous. And I took a poster and hung it up over that hole in the wall. And the
Wow.
hole in the wall was covered for like 20 years. Many, many years later, after I'd moved out, my parents found the hole in the wall. They're like, yo, what's this? I was like, yeah, I never told you about that one. But that was kind of how my anger used to manifest, and how my frustration would reveal itself was just through like, I would just kind of hold it in until I couldn't deal with it anymore. And then I'd throw knives out in the yard and throw bread outside and smash holes in walls. And
Interesting.
when I talk about, in a couple episodes ago, we talked about strength training, and that was kind of the impetus for me to start to make a change in some ways. And so when I tell my students these stories and they say, oh, you Mr. D, you seem like you're one of the more positive people we know. You're really supportive. I can't see you getting angry like that. I'm like, well, one, I don't get angry like that anymore. I've kind of figured that out. But so they say like, well, what was the change, or how did it happen? And it was definitely slow over time.
Mm-hmm.
But when I think about like the difference between my mindset now and my mindset then, is that I'm starting to have a little bit more of an understanding of what I have control over and what I don't. But I do think that, and it just sounds so like, I don't know, Pollyanna to say it, but I really do think the difference is awareness and gratitude. And just, for me, it was very difficult at a young age to have any level of gratitude and to not take everything for granted. And because what you don't know is what you don't know. And I really struggled with my anger and my temper. And I think when I started to be grateful for the things around me, things started to get better for me.
So what did you think you took for granted before? Like if you think of one of the instances where you were irritated, like let's say the poster, the drywall one, like that's pretty excessive, right? Like, were you just blind to everything around you?
I think what I'm trying to say is like, now if I feel myself getting angry or frustrated, like I can go to like gratitude, and it's not even necessarily related to the thing. It's just like, now I can be like, yeah, this sucks, and I'm really frustrated, but I have my health right now. I have people that love me. I have people that I love. I have a lot to be grateful for. And it would be silly for me to not think about that or be aware of that or recognize that and just let this little frustration own me.
So that's kind of the dialogue you have. So you start thinking of like positive things or things that you're grateful for, and then you kind of talk yourself out of it. Like, because I
Like,
have these awesome
yes.
things, what am I so mad about? Like, this doesn't make any sense.
Yes. And like, as you get older, you have awareness that, like, in the grand scheme, this little thing isn't as big of a deal from
Yeah.
a 30,000-foot view. But yeah, I think back then it was like, in the moment, I see this like welling up in my daughter sometimes, is like, I don't care about all these things that are good or positive or that I should be grateful for. In this moment, I am friggin' pissed off,
Yeah.
and I'm going to do what I can to piss myself off more and to really, really stick it to the people around me.
That's the
And
thing. Typically, it's you that you're sticking it to. I mean, aside
yeah,
from the flower trampling, you just sit there and ruminate about why you're so mad. This happens to me all the time. I'm so mad about this thing, or I'm so upset about this thing that I just keep talking to myself about how mad I am about it. Before I know it, I'm like, I'm mad about this for days. Like, what am I doing? Like, how is that helpful? But,
oh,
yeah,
that's crazy.
yeah. But you found a good way out. I'd like to explore that a little bit more. Like just kind of like what the talk track is, right? Like, oh, I'm so thankful for these things, even though I'm seeing red all around me. I'm so thankful for these things, and then it just comes down incrementally. Is that kind of how that works?
It comes down pretty quick now at this
Mhm.
point. Like, I can kind of quell it before it wells up too much.
Yeah,
Whereas before, if it was, I don't know, whatever, on a 1 to 10 scale, I could feel it rising.
yeah,
It'd go from like 6 to a 10 pretty quick. And now it's
yep.
like, I can,
Do
it'll
you
go up
like
to a
get out of the
7.
situation? Do you like remove yourself from from the area? You know what I mean? Like if it's localized.
Yeah, I feel like it's not so much a localized or situational as it is just like my my mindset about
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
I don't find myself getting really upset like in the moment about,
Oh, interesting.
I don't know, something that happens in
Yeah,
public or anything
yeah,
like
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Huh, interesting.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
thanks for
So,
sharing.
I think about like tactical takeaways.
Yeah.
I've done a good job at training myself into thinking in the moment. I shared this with my students the other day, and a couple days later, they're like, "Hey, Mr. D, that thing that you shared with me was like one of the most powerful things, and it's been really, really helpful for me. I had a student that was going through a tough time, and I'm like, do you know about the rule of fives?" And Todd stopped me if I've talked about this in a recent
You
episode.
know, keep going. I'm apt
And I was
pupil over.
like, the rule of fives for me has been helpful. So the rule of fives is this stimulus, this thing that is frustrating me or angering me. How am I going to feel about it 5 seconds from now? How am I going to feel about it 5 minutes from now? How am I going to feel about it 5 hours from
Whew,
now?
it's
How am I going
dangerous.
to feel about it 5 days from now? How am I going to feel about it 5 weeks from now, 5 months, and 5 years? And at least my age of 45, I have a pretty good understanding right away. Is this a 5 second or a 5 minute or a 5 hour, or is it
So
going
you
to be
just
longer than
bucketize
that?
it, kind of. Like I'm going to fit this into
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like I used to say to my students, you're frustrated about this thing in class right now? They're like, yep. I'm like, do you think you're gonna be frustrated about it when you go to bed tonight? Nope. Okay. So you're telling me you're gonna let it go at some point? Yep. All right. Well, the sooner you let it go, the more enjoyable your day is gonna be. And that's why I kind of be for myself is like, yeah, this thing will probably be frustrating to me in 5 minutes, but probably not in 5 hours. So
Mm,
if in 4.5 hours I'm not gonna be upset about it, why hang on to it for another 4.5 minutes?
wow.
You
What
know?
a skill.
And that's been helpful for me. It's like, yeah, where does this lie in the grand scheme? And some are big, like, yeah, like this thing could impact me in 5 years, but I just got to kind of play it like that, and that's been helpful for me too.
Is it play it like that or is it weigh it like that? Like if it's 5 months or if it's 5 years, then that predicates the amount of mental energy you're going to use to get out of it or to keep thinking about it. Because here's what would happen to me, and it always goes back to this godforsaken dog hair. Like I clean this all the time. I was just thinking about this for the podcast, and here's what I thought to myself. Everybody leaves in the daytime. I run my robotic vacuum. I clean it up to the point where I'm like, this is fantastic. The dogs don't, they just chill in their kennels because they know like, oh, we're not going to be playing around like we are when the wife's home, whatever. Jocelyn gets home, the kids come over, and I'm just looking everywhere. I'm like, look, like this just undid everything that I've done all day long. Like, I mean, it didn't take me all day, but this undid everything. And then I start thinking to myself, is it just like how nice that must be to come home to a house that's perfectly clean and then not have to care about who cleans it up. And so that starts the cycle and then it just goes. And so if I thought to myself, am I going to be mad about this in 5 minutes? Well, you damn right I'm going to be mad about this in 5 minutes. I'm going to be mad about this next tomorrow. I'm going to be mad about this, like this habitually just keeps going on. So I wonder, like, if that was the case for you, if you can wrap your head around that, like, you just talk yourself out of it, or does it go to another point where you're like, listen, family, gather around. This really irritates me. What can we do about this? Because this is habitually a thing for me.
Yeah, it's a great question. So my response to that is, if it's just a one-time thing in 5 minutes, the dog came in with mud on their feet. They normally don't come in with mud on their feet. That's a 5-minute, or you're probably not going to deal with it in 5 hours. You just kind of let that go, right? Maybe the same for a 5 hour. But what I'm hearing you say is you have these dogs shed dog hair every day.
Yeah.
The dog hair gets all over things that you don't want to have dog hair on, and you're more comfortable. Your mind is more clear. Your time at home is more enjoyable when there isn't dog hair on the stuff that you don't want dog hair on, right?
Yep.
Probability says those dogs are going to live for more than 5 years, Todd.
There it is, right? Because then I look at the dogs and I'm like, it's not your fault. But then I hold this resentment for my wife because she's the one who just keeps bringing these dogs home. So that's not healthy, right? So
So our conversations in the past have led me to believe you don't have plans on getting divorced in the next 5 years. And these dogs probably aren't going to die in the next 5 years.
No, probably not.
So at that point, that's a 5-year thing.
Yeah.
What can you do now to assuage that? So that's maybe a get together as a family to have a conversation.
I see. So, okay. So that's helpful. So that's how you do it then. How long is the duration, or what can I expect from this? What am I going to do to alleviate it, if anything? And then create an action plan from there.
Yeah. So when you talk about habitual, and we had a listener email us this past week and talk about a habitual thing that's going on in their household with a family member. And yeah, it's a different conversation than a one-time thing, right? So I try to think that through. And it's like, all right, is this a one-time thing, or is this like where does this lie in the rule of fives?
Interesting. Yeah, the rule of fives. I like that. Patent that one, buddy.
So earlier today, I gave you a text and I said, episode prep. Just think of a time when you were insanely angry. So I wanted to kind of have you have the opportunity to share a time that you were angry, much like I did when I stomped on the flowers, threw the knives outside, and kicked the hole in the wall. And you wrote back, I'm going to read the text. It said, I don't really get angry in the same way others do, or that one might think. Then you wrote, I also have a very hard time connecting past instances of emotions. And I thought that was interesting. And I'm going to kind of dig in a little bit with that one with you.
Yeah, let's go.
I also have a very hard time connecting past instances of emotions. First question is, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, so I think we've touched on this before a long time ago, maybe during a meditation one. I when I started meditating, I was just cruising right along. I'm like, oh, it's going to be the savior of everything in my life. And then I was going through. It was two-sided. There was a module in the 8-week meditation program I was taking. They were guided meditations, and in this guided meditation, it focuses on, so the meditation object is kind of what you focus your mind and your mental attention on when you're meditating, was recall a time where X happened, right? Or recall something that, made you feel a specific way in the past. And I sat there in my hot tub and I thought, I mean, surely this has happened to me. I don't think it was anger based, but it was like a time you felt sad or a time you felt happy. And I thought to myself, well, I can't make myself recreate the feeling of that joy, or like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if that makes sense to other people, because I haven't found many people that make sense to, but like you are easy to remember, like, ooh, I remember I was so pissed off. Like, but if I think back to a time when I was angry, to a time when I was insert emotion here, I have a very difficult time putting the pieces together that will allow me to connect with that emotion again. So I kind of just wash it away. So like, oh, I know I must have been mad when this happened, but I don't know, I swallowed it or pushed it down or pushed it away or whatever. And I could tell you that I was angry, or I could tell you that I felt a certain way, but I can't recall like the things that led up to that, or what I did to get out of that, or any of those things. So that happened. And I thought, oh, that's weird in this guided meditation. So I thought, well, maybe that happens to everybody. So I skipped ahead to the next one and I was on my way. But it came up again, as things in meditation often do, in the flaws of our psyche. And I was in a meditation course in person at work at Microsoft, and the same thing came up. And the instructor said almost verbatim the same thing. Like, think of a time when you were, and I raised my hand and I said, I can't think of a time. Like, I know they've happened, but so I explained that to him, and he just was like, I don't know what to say. Like, that's a common, meditative structure, right? Is to think about something, go back and refeel it. Kind of like you may have heard, like PTSD, right? If you experience PTSD, try to go back into it, unwind it, and then hopefully it will subside, or lessen in intensity. But I can never do that. So that was my answer to you, is like, I can't really think of a time that I was so angry or so anything that definitely nothing came out of it. Like, I don't get angry and like lash out, other than like verbally. Sometimes I'll yell at the kids or whatever, but nothing that's like Like, oh, I remember that tangibly getting angry. So yeah, that was my answer. And I don't even know how to work on it. That's the craziest part. So I've heard of some people say like, you can eat psychedelic drugs, and go back and blah, 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 or you can do breath work and, you can get back into that kind of mindset in a different, like through a different door. But I've never explored that. But it just seems weird to me that when I think of, an emotion, like this should have been the happiest day of my life. I don't really remember all the things that led to that joyful event or the feeling of that joy, if that makes any sense.
That is fascinating to me.
It's weird. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm able to go back and I think connect with those emotions, and I don't know if live them to the extent to which they were on display, when I experienced them, or go back and experience them in the same way. But yeah, they resonate enough with me to be able to go back and kind of.
Yeah. I could see it on your face when you were talking about the steak knife, like that steak knife. You're like your eyes get tight. Like you could imagine holding that steak knife. Like I can't do that. It's weird.
So I wonder what drives like memories. I would think like emotions are attached to memories.
Yeah.
Do you feel that you have like more or less short-term and long-term recall than people that you know?
I mean, I can recall things. I have a pretty good long-term recall. I think my short-term's a little, I don't know, it's kind of sporadic, I guess is the best. It kind of has some Swiss cheese holes in it every once in a while, but it'll fill in. But I'm a pretty emotional person. Like it doesn't take me a lot to get teared up. It depends on what I'm talking about. But when I try to connect those two things, like there's one thing that as I was talking about, I remember when each of my kids were born, I remember the sense of pride. And I remember that like the feeling like this is important. Like this is pretty awesome to watch this go down. So I remember like huge moments like that, but I've never been angry in that same way.
So it does or does not go the other way with like moments of intense joy or celebration. You can reattach to those, or is that the same as anger? Is
it's very hollow. Like I'd really have to think like even around those times that I was talking about that it came up like in the meditation, I'd never thought about like childbirth. Like that just popped into my head and I was like, yeah, that was pretty cool. But like, yeah, so it's not profound in the way that it imprints on me. And I don't know why that is that way, but it's just the way.
I'm just curious to think about like, I wonder if something maybe get like Dr. Slammin on for this.
I was just thinking about that. Yeah.
Is this, is it like a survival mechanism? Like it's been a coping strategy for you?
Maybe
consciously or unconsciously that has been there and helped you get through some of the things that you've had to navigate in your life.
It could be. Yeah. I don't know. But nonetheless, I don't have fits of anger and I don't kick holes in the wall, but maybe it'd be better if I did.
Well,
I don't know. Yeah. Cause I do a lot of just eat. Like I remember one time that I was so frustrated. I don't know what was going on behind me. The kids and everybody was in the kitchen here when we first moved in, and I was doing the dishes, and everything just got to a point where I was so frustrated that I just stopped, and I just put my head down, and everybody was like, "What's going on over there at the dishes?" Like I'm just standing at the sink, just idle, just like thinking to myself, "How in the hell am I going to get out? Like this thing that's going on in my head, I don't know how to deal with it." And I remember thinking that, and then I just I don't know it just dissipated and that was it. But I remember Jocelyn was like, "What was going on over there?" I was like, "I don't know." It was so heavy that I had to stop. So I don't know. It's the only other time I can think of.
Yeah, I would say the single most helpful thing for me when I get there is, I'd say the two most things. One is a gratitude piece. Like, all right, Pete, like you're frustrated. Like you can offset this. You can balance out this teeter-totter with a good thought right now, or I don't like to use the word good, but a piece of your life for which you can and should be grateful. I know you love the word should.
Yep.
And then the other piece is, just like in the grand scheme, like how big of a deal is this thing? I think the more that I do that, the more I start to realize this thing that I'm upset about is not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But then I start to beat myself up about like, dude, you get this upset about this. Like, what if something big does happen? You're not even equipped to deal with that. You're so incredibly mentally weak that you're getting this thing like get to you, and you haven't even had anything big happen to you recently. And that's when I start to be like, oh my gosh, am I prepared for like the big thing? But like, how do you prepare yourself for the big thing?
Yeah, well, you don't even know the big thing's coming until it's right in your face. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then there's the old saying, like we plan and the universe laughs.
Yeah, for real.
Because you can plan a picnic, but you can't predict the weather,
Yeah, it's very interesting to think about.
So I guess I should share my tactical pieces, the gratitude and the kind of scale of how big it is. What about you? Like if you feel yourself going there, or what are strategies that you use to either not get there, like preventative, or to mitigate your reaction to frustration when you start to feel it?
I feel like I'm very poor at that. Like if I it depends how it's how it's inflicted, I think is what it really boils down to. Like if it's something that I can't control, however you want to look at it, I know I am aware like, oh, this isn't something that's a big deal to everybody else. Like, and I think that's where the other part starts is if I think it's not something that is of concern to anybody else around me, and they look at me like that's weird, then I think to myself, well, that's a flaw of mine. What am I supposed to do about that? And then that just triggers a whole host of. So I think you're right. There might be. I'm going to talk to Wild Bill about that. But if I'm able to, and I've had success with this in the past, if I can play and hold different outcomes in my mind for other specific things, and then play them out like in the land of make believe in the darkness of my skull. If I'm like, oh, what if I did this? How might that turn out, right? Instead of what you typically do. So I try to interrupt the loop that usually happens by inserting a different response. And that works sometimes, but the ones that are over the long haul, I fail to do that for some reason, or maybe I just haven't tried enough. But it's like the dog hair thing. It's like, I mean, clearly it could be OCD. You know what I mean? So maybe I should look at other help, but it doesn't drive everybody else crazy. So, but my daughter's the same way. Like she has a lot of the same nuances that I do, and we like struggle to be able to bridge the gap of what tools to use. And gratitude might be the answer. Like I might start thinking about that, but yeah, I don't really have any solid ones for that.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I do use gratitude all the time, but I don't use it in that way. So maybe I just haven't put the right cocktail together.
Yeah, I'm finding myself. That's when I use it the most. Is when I start to find myself feeling frustrated or angry, and it's been great.
Yeah,
I've really enjoyed it, and it doesn't have to be related at all. And in fact, that's almost better. If it's a frustration,
out of that, right?
Yeah, if it's a frustration at home, I can think of something I'm grateful with school. If it's a frustration at school, I can think of something I'm grateful for at home. It's easier for me to detach from the frustration feelings. It's okay to be angry, but I try to use that in a productive manner.
Yeah,
a solution-based style.
The anger, like you channel it.
Yeah, like I'm okay with the fact that I can get angry. It's what I do with the anger that really matters, right?
Oh, I see.
Like you and I talk about reacting versus responding.
Yeah.
How can I respond? And when I respond, it's a productive way. I learn something from it. I forge something out of it that's going to be fruitful for myself or for others down the road. Reacting does not.
Yeah. So if you're really pissed off, like, and you're angry, you take that anger and you put it into extra reps of front squats. Like how does that work?
Could be that. Yep. It could be a chance for me to really kind of sit down and dial in, like how big of a problem is the thing that's angering me, and to know, and like you talk about habitual stuff, like to know, like if this thing comes up again, like what can or should I do, and what's the likelihood of this coming up again, and to be better equipped to respond to it.
Yeah, I'm going to try that. We'll see.
It sounds great for me to say into a microphone on a podcast, but it's life. It's real life. It's like, how am I going to manage that in real time? But I think that I
use gratitude. Like if my day is dragging, like I'm having a hard time getting started or getting engaged on something, I'll find somebody in some community or somebody I know, and I'll like check in with them and be like, hey, that's great. And I like use gratitude in order to, I guess it's selfishly make both of us feel better, but that usually gets the ball rolling. So I could see that being a mechanism that can be powerful in that way.
Yeah, so I guess all this to say, like, I feel like I have definitely made progress in stopping on my mom's flowers when I was 9 years old. But I still have a long way to go. But I do think that thinking about the big picture and using gratitude are the two tactics that work best for me in those times.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for sharing. I'm going to try to use it. I'll let you know.
Yeah.
Tomorrow when I vacuum the floor, I'll let you know how that goes.
I thought you have a robot that vacuums.
I do, but I still have to.
You still have to press the buttons on your phone.
Yeah. You sound like Jocelyn. I thought you loved the robot. It was saving your life. I was like, it is, but still in vacuum the floor.
I might not be drowning, but half my body's still in water.
Yeah, exactly. Funny.
Well, to all the listeners out there, we thank you so very much for your ears. We appreciate your time. We are incredibly grateful for your attention. We continue to urge and request you to reach out to us in any platform that works best for you. schoolandstruggle@gmail.com is an awesome way to reach out to us. We are the School and Struggle Podcast. We are out.
See ya.
We got to get Todd to bed so he can get up at 2:30 in the morning.
Here we go.